Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2012 Budget Committee. This is Friday, September 30th. Any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2012 Budget Committee agenda for this afternoon may appear before Council at its meeting on October 4th, 2011 at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this afternoon's meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations must also be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. There are no regrets for the members of the committee. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. There are no consent items or confidential consent items. We do have two discussion items today. The first is the 2012 Budget Directions and Service Level Review, and the second is the Budget Consultation. We're going to start off with Gord Lalonde, who's going to introduce the first item, the 2012 Budget Directions and Service Level Review.
Thanks. The presentation is going to be made by Nancy Sully, but I just wanted to emphasize that the purpose of this meeting is to table a report with you that you've got in your package, and we have a further meeting on October the 12th where we would be asking you for your advice. So we're happy to answer any questions that come up today, but the intention is for you to take this away, consult with who you need to consult with, and come back to us with some advice on October the 12th.
Sorry, just want to see if they can get the screen.
If we could get the main screen up, please.
There we go. Good afternoon. My presentation this afternoon, as Gord said, is intended to provide an overview on the information provided in the 2012 Budget Directions and Service Level Report that's included in today's agenda. The information provided in the report highlights the existing service levels delivered by the town in comparison to surrounding municipalities and identifies enhanced levels of service in some of our programs. The budget process began in June with the presentation of the base budget forecast, and as you'll recall, at that time we were projecting a tax levy increase of 8%. There were 4 budget resolutions that impacted the development of the 2012 budget. 2 of those were around printing costs, and those will be reported back on at the budget meetings later this year. Staff are also directed to prepare the 2012 to 2014 budgets with total property tax increases in line with inflation. To meet this guideline, based on an 8% tax increase, $5 million in reductions would need to be found. It was noted during the presentation in the spring that to achieve this goal, service level reductions would be required. Since June, departments have been working on their 2012 budgets and their 2013 and 14 forecasts. Staff were directed to review the base budget carefully, with an emphasis on ensuring revenues maintain cost recovery ratios and volume increases were accurately projected. As well, all expenditures within programs were reviewed to ensure budgets accurately reflect the requirements to deliver the program. The review of the budget has reduced the increase to the tax levy. The budgets are not yet finalized. However, at this time, we are estimating that the reductions required to bring the budget in line with approved guidelines has been reduced to between $2 and $3 million. Because of the work done on improving efficiencies in the base over the past several years, there's limited opportunity to reduce it further. At this time, the only option available to reduce the tax increase is to reduce service levels. Having said that, the executive management team will be undertaking a service delivery review to ensure the most efficient and cost-effective delivery of service is in place. The town, over the last several years, has introduced many initiatives to enhance service delivery, increase efficiency, and control expenditures. Under the previous council, performance-based, program-based budgeting was introduced to provide transparency in the cost of delivering the town's programs and services. Focus has moved from line item expenditures to the programs and services delivered and the expected outcomes of those programs. Traditional budgeting focuses on line items without determining whether the program is achieving its intended results. Under PB2, performance measures have been developed for all programs to assist program managers, council, and citizens in determining if the program is meeting its intended purpose. Resources are then allocated to the program based on the priorities of council and the public. During the past 3 budgets, over $5.1 million in reductions, revenue increases, and efficiencies have been incorporated in the base budget as it was presented to Council. These savings were achieved through planned gapping, expenditure reductions, and revenue increases, including a review of our rates and fees. Our purchasing section participates in the Halton Cooperative Purchasing Group to procure goods in larger volumes. We also participate in the LES Utility Program under AMO, and we coordinate our purchases with other municipalities. By partnering with others, the town is able to take advantage of savings through volume discounts and streamlined purchasing processes. As well, the town implemented an asset management program as part of the compliance to PSAB. This has allowed us to manage our assets efficiently, providing quantitative data to ensure our budgets are developed accurately for the maintenance and replacement of our town assets. Our Planning and Development Commission recently underwent a reorganization to improve service delivery. They are currently completing a process mapping exercise to ensure services are delivered in the most efficient manner, and will be reporting back to Council in the first or second quarter of next year with the results of this exercise. The citizens survey indicated a general preference for user fees to finance the maintenance or addition of programs and services. As part of the budget process, all user fees are reviewed to ensure cost recovery ratios are maintained. In 2012, we will be undertaking a user fee review in many of our areas to ensure that appropriate fees are in place for our programs and services. The review during this year's budget has resulted in greater cost recovery in many areas of the town programs, as we've ensured that our volumes are carefully forecasted and our fees are increased to maintain cost recovery ratios and match inflation. The customer service strategy, approved in 2008, is now being implemented under Service Oakville, and there was a report on the agenda this past Tuesday outlining how the strategy will be implemented. Service Oakville will improve customer service by reducing duplication and eliminating the frustration that residents also often feel when trying to find the right person to answer their questions. It will also allow us to meet the demand for increasing services in a more efficient and effective manner. It is fully expected that there will be efficiencies gained as call volumes are dealt with on a more efficient manner. The next step for the town is to undertake a process review to look at how our services are delivered. It is expected that this will produce savings as processes are streamlined. The first programs to be reviewed will likely be those program areas that are consolidated under Service Oakville. Sorry. It's anticipated over the next 3 years that service delivery models will be reviewed for all of our town programs. It's expected that this process will reduce costs. However, savings will not be achieved in time for this year's budget. To bring the budget in line with approved guidelines, an additional $2 to $3 million will be required. The only way to achieve this target is to reduce our service levels, as I mentioned before. In the past, staff have identified reduction options at the activity levels. Many of those options proved unpalatable to both the residents and council. As a result, staff were directed not to bring forward reduction options that were not approved in the 2011 budget process. To meet the guideline, a review of town programs was undertaken. Our service levels were compared to 3 municipalities. We compared ourselves to Guelph as a growth municipality and Burlington as our neighbor to the west, and then Mississauga on the right. A summary of the results of this is attached as Appendix A to my report today. All programs were then reviewed to determine where increased levels of service are provided. Enhanced levels of service were defined as service levels that exceed what is generally provided in other municipalities or levels that are above required under legislation. Our executive management team met in early September to review all of the templates that were prepared by the directors, and as a result compiled a list of enhanced services. Many of the items identified as enhancements are valued by the residents, and in some cases are what makes Oakville, Oakville. Over the years, Council has added services desired by our residents. They are, in some cases, the very things that attract people to Oakville. Our Parks and Green Space ranks in the top 5 in terms of customer satisfaction with town programs and services. Our extensive trail system is likely, which is identified as an enhanced service, likely contributes to that positive ranking. The town provides seniors windrow service, clearing, and sanding and snow clearing on all town sidewalks. This service is not required under legislation. However, it is valued by many residents. While these enhanced services are valued by our residents, they do come at a cost. In order to reduce taxes, there may be some enhancements Council wishes us to review. To assist staff in bringing forward options to reduce the tax levy increase, we are seeking direction from the Budget Committee on the programs they would like us to focus on. In programs where we're currently providing standard levels of service, it may be difficult to reduce service levels further. However, we are providing enhanced service levels in some programs, and there may be opportunities for reductions. We have presented the information at the program level. Based on the direction that we receive from the Budget Committee, we will then go back and develop reduction options at the activity level. This chart and the following chart are included in the report, and they just outline some of the enhanced services that we have. Under our administrative executive management, we do employee and citizen surveys on alternating years, and in many municipalities, they stretch that out a bit further. As well, we provide webcasting and evening meeting support to our council meetings. In political governance, we have the election rebate program, which is not offered in many municipalities. And as the report will show, in some cases we have more youth services, we have senior centers of greater number, as well as outdoor pools and ice pads. Under cultural services, the opening of Kiwi Park Community and Cultural Center, which is a very unique feature in Oakville, is not offered in many municipalities. And in tow wharf, in emergency services, we offer tow wharf, which is not provided in any other municipality. In parks, there's some services that we've listed as well, and then infrastructure maintenance. These are all provided in more detail in the report, and it's there for your review. Our next steps. The meeting today is intended to provide you with information on the service levels that we currently provide in our town programs. A second meeting, as Gord said, has been scheduled for October 12th to receive direction on the programs you would like us to focus on to reduce the tax levy increase in line with the approved guidelines. The meetings were set up almost 2 weeks apart to provide you time to review the information and ask questions of staff. Based on the direction that we receive on the 12th, staff will go back and determine where reductions can be found. Those reductions will be incorporated in the budget that is presented to the Budget Committee later this year. Normally, in a non-election year, we would be tabling the budget in November, and we would have budget meetings during the month of November into December with budget approval shortly before Christmas. This year, because of the amended budget process and the additional time taken by staff to review our service levels and our programs, as well as the additional 2 Budget Committee meetings this fall, we're proposing that the budget timelines be shifted out. We're now proposing that the budget be tabled in January, and we would have followed by 2 meetings for commissioner presentations, and then again 2 meetings for delegations, and then our deliberations would take place in early February with council approval of the budget targeted for February 22nd. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Councillor Elder?
A quick question I do have, but first I'd like to compliment staff on the package they gave us on the preliminary budget and program services overview. I think it's the first time where people can really see what they're getting for their money, where you're showing the gross cost, the net cost, and actually broken down by program. And it's very meaningful, and it really shows where the money is going. And I think you've done an excellent job. And it's 10 years, and this is the first time I've seen it in this way that's so easy to understand, of just how much, emergency services, fire, we can see. It jumps off the page. It's 21.9% of our net budget. And then transit is very high too, like 70% we are subsidizing. Like when you go through it that way,
Right.
it's extremely meaningful. Now, I do have a question related to going forward for the next presentation. If it could be provided, the amount of overtime
certainly.
dollars as opposed to regular dollars
Yep.
by department, but also for individuals over 10% overtime. I don't need the names of them, but I'm just wondering if there are any.
Don't you want it by program?
Yes, broken down by program.
Okay,
Yes.
certainly.
Because I think that would, because there gets to be a break-even point as to whether it's worthwhile paying the overtime. I know
Right.
we start looking at it in where I used to work, it was some interesting numbers jumped off the page. And is time, if you take time in lieu, is it given back as a time, an hour for an hour, or an hour for 1.5?
For unionized staff, it is an hour and a half for every hour because we have to do that under labor standards. For non-union, they have to earn at least 105 hours, and then they get 1 for 3 basically, and they get 5 days maximum. So it's quite capped for non-union.
Primarily the unionized
It's
employees, I'd be
primarily,
asking for
yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay. Fleet purchases, are we hooked in with the province?
We are for our transit now. I can report back to you on if there's any other opportunities where we have started to do that. I'm not sure.
Understand, like, that Toronto is linked in with the province to get much better purchase prices for the
Okay.
vehicles.
All right,
So if we could
I'll
look at that. And that's all I've got, and thank you.
Any others?
Perhaps I can just add to Nancy's answer about the fleet purchases. We've recently structured a deal with Metrolinx, so there's bulk purchase of all of the buses and all of the bus parts and 24-hour just-in-time services, and we're part of the Halton Regional buying group for many of our parts for the remainder of the fleet. So I thought that might be helpful.
Any other members of the committee? Other members of council? Councillor Dunlop?
I wonder if I could get some kind of indication of any kind of sponsorship money that we're working on in terms of some of our facilities. Certainly in Rec and Culture, I know that there's been for the arenas and also for QE Park. Whether there's something that's in the works that we may be seeing some revenue generated from those in the coming year.
We can provide that for you at the October 12th meeting. Okay.
Any other questions?
And I also, I
go
also
ahead.
wanted to say thank you as well. The presentation was excellent.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you.
And as you know, members of committee, this will come back for our discussion in 2 weeks' time. And between now and then, should you have questions about any of the programs or how to proceed or how to phrase something, then by all means, let me know or speak with Nancy so that we can organize ourselves appropriately. I'm going to go to members of the public now. I have an indication from Mr. Shield that he'd like to speak. Come on down to the podium, please. And if you wouldn't mind just giving your name formally for the clerk. You have up to 10 minutes, and we
I
look
won't
forward
need
to your
10.
information.
Sure. Give what to the clerk?
If you would just state your name for
Oh, I see.
the
Okay.
record.
Okay. John Shield. I've been a citizen of Oakville since 1980. Some of you know me. I've been here before. Sometimes I like coming. Sometimes I don't like coming. It's okay. I don't really mind at all. I'm retired. As you know, I had some difficulty, and it sort of started with a bunch of traffic islands. And having cycled into Toronto from Oakville for many years, like, I know bicycles. And there's no one in this room that can challenge me on that. What you did, I think, is a very dangerous thing. And I started looking at it, and nobody at the council listened to me. We still have all those islands. We have bicycle lanes that lead little kids into the curbs, and so on and so on. I told you that I would write a book about government waste and inefficiency, and I've done that. It's 500 pages long. It starts with Oakville. I live here, so this is my backyard. The numbers are here. I can understand the problems here. I've lived here a long time. I was a school trustee, and we had some difficulties with the school board, and the 3 years I was there, we held the budget to $336 million every year, no increases. We had a recession here in Oakville, 2008, 2009. The town ran the budget as if it was running a hot knife through butter. No cuts, no nothing. So recession, there's another one coming. I can't wait to get back to the TV screens and see what's happening with my stock portfolio, which is it's all cash right now. Believe me, I don't want to be sitting there investing in anything. Pardon? What was that?
Continue, sir. The floor is yours.
Okay, I got a lot of time left. Anyway, so another thing. I started looking at Oakville and many of the expenditures and things like that, and we can take transit, and we've talked about that when I was here last year and no one did anything. We can talk about the staff and the planning and building services in various departments. No one did anything. They're working at half the levels that they worked at 7 or 8 years ago because Oakville is dying. Our growth, real growth, is 2.3% a year, year after year after year. Our budget growth, dollars, wages and like fringe benefits, just take that, wages and fringe benefits, have run almost 9% every year for 8 years, okay? The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses studied what municipalities are doing, and I've given you this last year. They're running at least twice the rate of growth of inflation plus actual growth. Oakville is above that. Now, I'm insulted, okay, me personally. I mean, I can afford the extra $300 or $400 or $500 of taxes every year, but I feel awful giving it to you because you're wasting it, okay? The PB squared budgeting system, I've tried for 2 years to understand what that is. I've had others who are quite intelligent people look at it. No one knows what it is, and there are no instructions internally in the town for management or councillors. And if I asked any one of you right now to give me an explanation as to how transit or the planning services or building services departments are rationalized with this budgeting system, you couldn't tell me. It's guaranteed. It doesn't work. You can't put 30% more into transit over 2 years and get 4% increase in passengers. It doesn't work. So I have a lot of problems. So what I did, okay, I want you, what you should do with your budgeting system, and I think you owe it to the public after 4 years, is take those two examples, transit and building services and all the people that have to do with growth, which is 2.2% a year, and rationalize it to the public with numerical examples as to how you can spend that kind of money in those departments. Just those two examples. That's really why I want to come here, because those are real numbers, they're facts, and all the rest of it, and you should be able to put that together and explain your budgeting system, which no one else understands, okay? So, okay. Am I allowed to come up there? Because I want to give this to you personally so that I know that it's been done.
We'll have the clerk
No?
come down and get it from you.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm not a threat. Okay? So that's for Tom, okay? Now, that's only one, all right? Because this costs me money, okay? Now, if you want more, you can get them through a website, no problem. The town's spending money like crazy. $35 a book isn't going to hurt you very much. I'm not here to sell the book. I want you to wake up. I want you to learn what budgeting is. 30 years ago, I used to fly around North America putting budgeting systems into large public companies, okay? Whether it was Hallmark Cards, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, many, many companies. I did that, okay? With a thing called Financial Planning Simulator, which was a forerunner to Excel, which I helped create, okay? I know budgeting systems. You guys are not budgeting here, okay? I hear for the first time staff has put something together that Mr. Elgar can actually understand. You know, I'm having a little trouble because we can't even find efficiencies because we're not ready for it. We have to do it next year and the year after. That's what I just heard just now again. Burlington, and this is my last point, is running, and your numbers on the internal auditor page there are wrong in you know, this document. He's got wrong numbers. My book has the right numbers. Has 20 or 25% less total staff, depending on what base you're using to calculate the total full-time employees. 2009, I think they had 82 million for wages and fringe benefits. We had 103 million, okay? Burlington is the same size as Oakville. They provide the same services. I would be just as happy there with fire services, you know, sewage, parks and rec, whatever else. 2 councillors there have actually asked me to move to Burlington, if you can believe it, okay? They have 6 councillors. We have 12. Everything you look at here is excess. And when you compare the budgets of Burlington and Oakville, there's a big, big, big gap, okay? I don't need the extra services. Many people here don't need them, okay? So I'll leave you with that. I'm just telling you that the process is wrong. You have to explain PB squared to the people. They don't understand what it is, and it isn't working. The closest thing I can think of is something like horizontal budgeting at the federal government level, okay? Where they take $2 billion and allocate it to, 13 departments. Just goes out. The controls are the function of the departments, and some of them are getting substantial amounts of money. What you're doing here, I think, is taking transit and allocating it to Parks and Rec and here and there and so on and so on. No one has a clue what's going on with that. No one. And you're not explaining it to the people if you do know what you're doing. Okay? So like, I've done my thing. I've written the book. I thank you very much for kicking me in the rear end for doing something. It's not only Oakville, so let's not get too obsessed with Oakville. It's got Halton in it. It's got the Ontario government in it. It's got federal government in it. It's got ethanol in it. It's got eggs in it. It's got Pearson Airport. Almost everything we do through government has waste attached to it. Smell, slime, everything. It's in the book. I've quantified it. McGuinty's wonderful energy programs, they're all quantified in the book. Numbers, explanations, so people can understand them. It's written for the guy in the street, a grade 11 education. Okay? So, anyway, there's an education in there. But guess what? I learned something too by doing it. So I'm not perfect either. But when you push yourself and you have to look at numbers and look at them and look at them, you wake up at 6 in the morning one day and you say, holy smokes, I can't believe that. Councillors here make what councillors in Toronto make. Our budget is 40 times as small. $100,000 in Toronto, $100,000 here for half the councillors. The mayor makes what the mayor of Toronto makes. He looks after police, infrastructure, McGuinty, all kinds of other stuff. We're out of control, okay? So when you look at stuff, please look at your own salaries, look at how many of you there are, look at Burlington that has 20% less people, okay, and so on and so on. You learn a lot. That's it, okay? So thanks so much.
Thank you very much. You
Any
do have
questions?
some questions.
Oh, good.
I know I don't make $100,000, quite far from it. Councillor Elgar?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming forward. Did you bother to take the time to read the agenda for today?
I did quickly, okay, because like quite frankly, like it's out there, okay, it's soft and it's like punching clouds.
Well,
There's so many things
the
in there
reason
we
I
have-
refer to it is if you had have taken a few minutes to have read it,
No, I
you would
did.
have seen that building services, the gross is 6.9 million,
Yeah.
but all that's on the tax base is $78,000. Like, I'm disappointed, like, I'm glad you came.
No, wait.
But if you're going to take shots, like, it's good if you have read the report.
Mr. Elgar, how many people are in those three departments right now, physical people, full-time? Building services, planning services, and the other one that goes with them.
I don't have that right at
Well,
my
I
fingertips,
think the
but I'm
numbers-
telling you what the net cost is according to this package
No,
we have
the
today.
number is 121, okay?
And
7
it only
years-
costs us $78,000 annually, is my point.
121 people times whatever, $72,000 is not 78, whatever. 7 years or 8 years ago, there were 71 people in the same departments. I look at people.
Yes, you know something? Obviously, you should read this.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I know, if you could read that, I'd
Can we go back
appreciate
to questions, please?
Yeah, well,
And
and that
any-
was it, because what they have done, and if you do read it,
Oh.
it would be helpful, like, to see that it's broken out more as a program. It says transit is separate.
It was last year, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody. It was allocated to different people. Look, the only thing I know is bodies, okay? They're warm, most of them, I think, and there are 121 people in those departments. 7 or 8 years ago, it was 71, okay? Oakville has grown 2.2% a year, and if you look at the building, dollar volume or something like that is 1/3 of what it used to be, okay? You don't need almost twice as many people to do 1/3 of the work. I don't have to look at whatever the little variance is or this or that or whatever else. And meanwhile, there are so many qualitative and subjective words in that document. It's not rigorous yet. And I'm trying to make you guys hang some ornaments on your Christmas tree. All I got here is a Christmas tree. Okay? I'm not going to quibble about some number that, okay, read the book and you're going to understand what we're talking about.
I'm not sure if Mayor Burton was ahead of you there. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Can I clarify something in terms of salaries versus Toronto and Burlington? Because I don't make what a Toronto councillor does. And a Toronto councillor has a $200,000 budget for staff, and I have nothing.
I know that.
So, and Burlington has fewer councillors, but again, they have a budget for staff, which is quite a bit. So you have to compare apples to apples when you're comparing the different councils to each other.
I prefer 6 councillors and a little bit of help and support from the staff then. There's nothing wrong with that. And listen, if there's something wrong, please tell me, okay? I don't have a problem with that. But I
But you're
can
not
tell
going
you-
to save
no,
any
no.
money on it, though.
You're not a regional councillor, right? No, that's why you don't make 100,000. But the regional councillors sitting here make 100,000.
No, we don't. Mayor Burton.
It's in your annual
All
report.
right, Council, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to have to do it. We have a procedure by law, and it says that we receive information from our delegations and we don't argue. And I appreciate that Mr. Shiel has got under the skin of some of you with some of his unfounded remarks, but his inaccurate information is a trademark of his presentations here, and all he's trying to do is get your goat. I don't think you should rise to the goating, and we should thank him for his information. He does drive-by commentary every year. He does not absorb all of the information that we absorb. The commissioner gave a terrific presentation at the last budget, for example, on why our staff grew more than the comparisons that Mr. Shiel likes to use. Mr. Shiel doesn't care for or regard the explanation as worthy of consideration. That's his right, but we don't have to descend to arguing with him. So I urge you, just thank him for his information.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Shiel.
Very welcome. Thanks a lot.
Members of committee, the item before us on item 1 is motion to receive is the recommendation. Could I get that motion? Thank you, Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? That's carried. So we'll come back with that item in 2 weeks' time for further discussion. Item number 2 is the budget consultation item. And Jane, I think you're going to speak to this one?
Yes.
Yes, Mayor.
You went just a little too fast for me there. I was hoping to add to the first item an additional request, and I wonder if you'd allow me to put that now.
Of course.
So I guess there's a separate additional motion, or I don't know what the proper procedure is on this, but
We're in committee, and so
Okay.
should you wish to raise an issue, it is possible
I'd like
to
the committee
reconsider it.
to request staff to review all opportunities to balance transit demand and resources to achieve the best possible service for our residents.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'd like the committee to request staff to review opportunities to balance transit demand and resources to achieve the best possible service for our residents.
I don't think that anybody's going to have any problem with that, but I think we're going to deal with that type of thing when it comes back. Is there a reason that you want to do that today?
Yeah,
there any
they
reason-
they were talking about it, and it seemed like I wanted to encourage them.
Well, I certainly think they're going to be doing that with or without us bringing forward a motion here.
I'd still like to put my motion and offer them the encouragement, if you'd permit.
Of course, I'll permit it, but I think there's a lot more that we'll want to do. So, Councillor Johnson, are you ready to accept that as an amendment to the original motion? Councillor Damoff? Yeah.
Since we're commenting on a number of things when we come back on the 12th, I don't understand why we're singling out transit, and I don't really understand what the motion is asking for. I have a problem just singling out one department versus any other ones, when that's not what we were expected to be doing today.
I'm looking to get more information. We're coming back on the 12th with our picks from this report based on the information you have there. I'm going to need more information, and this is me asking for it.
Okay, so I better understand what it is that you're looking for, because within the material associated with the transit section, where are we here? Do you have another page number there? Oh, here it is, page 42. Within page 42, it speaks to the types of things that we do, and certainly when it comes back for our more detailed discussion on the 12th, the committee and council could direct staff in the preparation of the full budget material to consider transit balancing or opportunities, if that is what you're heading towards.
All right, I will accept your advice, thank you. I withdraw the request.
Okay. So we are therefore ready to move on to item number 2. Welcome, and we look forward to your presentation or your comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually not going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but it's not bad that the budget timelines are up there, because that's obviously very relevant to our public engagement process for the 2012 budget. Over the last year, staff from Strategy, Policy, and Communications have been working on the draft public engagement toolkit, which was attached in this report. And the idea behind that toolkit is to take the values and principles from the public engagement policy that Council approved last year, to take them from theory into practice. So we're actually quite excited because we had an opportunity with this exercise today to apply that toolkit and to work through the exercise to say, how does the toolkit work to the question before us around the public engagement process for the 2012 budget. First off, I just want to clarify, because sometimes you'll hear the words consultation and engagement used interchangeably, when in fact, in the public engagement nomenclature, consultation is actually a form of engagement. But this has taken years and years of evolution, so you'll often hear people will fall back into consultation, meaning overall engagement. So I just, we need to clarify on that one specific issue. It's just a habit. So as I outlined in the report, our toolkit defines a 7-step process that we're advising staff to go through when they want to determine what type of consultation they need to do. We applied that to the question that Council had put to Finance to look at whether we should consider a citizens forum or citizens panel for this year's budget process. So beginning at step 1, we looked at what's the goal for our public engagement. And this is really important because our goal has to align with public expectations. Otherwise, it's just going to be frustration. And the goal is really going to depend on what your object is. And this is particularly true for budget questions. And I think when we look at the budget, and as you're all aware, Council is accountable for the town's budget. You're the ones who are Budget Committee's going to make recommendations. Staff's going to do a lot of work, analysis, provide recommendations. Budget Committee's going to do its own work and its recommendations, and Council's going to make the final decision. So we have to be really clear on that with the public, because if the public, and you can see a little bit sometimes with the delegations, if they're coming forward with a recommendation of their own and it's not accepted, sometimes they feel very frustrated. So we have to make sure that that's very clear, that we're asking for their input, but in fact they're not making the recommendations. When we look at the public's role, I think there's a lot of room in the process to inform them, to consult with them, to involve them, to collaborate with them. And really, we're only talking about not moving forward with the final extensive collaboration and extensive empowerment of the public. So we have outlined a comprehensive approach in the report. It will increase the opportunities for public participation. It builds on the steps that you have taken in the previous years, but do not feel that a citizen jury is a necessary tool that's required at this time. As councillors, you're very aware, you do public engagement every day. Every phone call you take is public engagement. And what we're trying to make sure is that we have a method of recording that dialogue, and that we really have an opportunity to report back to Budget Committee and Council on the many ways that we're engaged with the public. We actually began the process, as you know, with our citizen survey that took place, which is a biannual citizen survey right now, and that gave us a lot of meaningful input. Both, as Nancy talked about, some statistics that look at our services and citizen satisfaction. We know that citizens are very happy with the services town provides, but we also know, we could see there's a little bit of a sensitivity growing about taxation. So this can help inform the type of consultation process or engagement process that we design. And we also know from the survey that many of our residents already feel very well informed on issues that are going on around the town. They feel that council has done a good job of reaching out to them and giving them opportunities for being involved, and they're going to stay happy as long as they feel that you're keeping them informed of what's going on. They want to know, I mean, they've told us, they want to know that you are providing good value for money. They want to know that council is holding staff accountable for its decisions. They want to know that we have respect for the taxpayers' money and that we continue to provide the services that they value and, as Nancy said earlier, help make Oakville, Oakville. So I just want to stress, because you'll see keeping the public informed, there are many techniques that we're recommending. And sometimes people feel that because it's the lowest step on the continuum, well, it just must be easy and you don't have to pay much attention to it. And in fact, it's probably one of the hardest things that we have to do is to keep the community informed. We have different audiences. We have to do a lot of work to keep getting our messages out to them. So that's why you'll see so many different techniques that we're using and recommending so that, for the person who really is content to send in an email, they can do that. For the people who are more engaged in social media, with our new website, we're going to be able to engage them directly in debate. So we can have, we can set aside, come January, an evening and afternoon for a Twitter debate. That's not going to be a problem. We can have a Facebook debate. You can do so many more things with the online media. We also know there's people who won't be happy unless they can come and talk directly to Councillor Adams as the budget chair. And over the last 2 years, Councillor Adams gone out more and more into the community with our budget open houses. So there's a lot of people who like to come forward in an open, very informal way to speak directly to the chair. So we want to make sure that's part of the process. And there's also other stakeholder groups, and I can think of the Chamber of Commerce, for one, that represent a multitude of interests. So their interest is coming in to meet directly with staff and having some ongoing dialogue. So again, that's another technique that we're recommending. And then there are actually groups that prefer, and we've spoken with many of them, that they want to come into the formal process. They want to be at budget committee. They want their input recorded through the system, or they want to speak to council. And the formal delegations are just as important, and they can lead to ongoing discussions. We certainly know that from last year. A lot of the initiatives brought forward led to further engagement after the budget committee process was completed. So what we're recommending in this report are techniques that will cover from informing the public, consulting with them, involving them, collaborating with them, but ultimately decision-making will rest with council. And I just want to end by noting that the toolkit also has 2 other steps at the end, and that is to report and follow up on all your consultation, and that's something we're going to do to Budget Committee, and you will get a report as you go forward on what we've been learning from the public. But we also can evaluate the process. We can see, did we achieve the goals that we set out to do? And I suggest that we'll also report back to the 2013 Budget Committee with, here's the results of last year's process, so you can determine if you do want to take it to a further step in the future.
Okay, any questions about the materials? Mayor Burton?
Similar to what Councillor Elgar said to the previous report, I want to congratulate and thank staff for this report. This is outstanding. This really does a good, comprehensive job of setting out the full spectrum of how we have built and enhanced communication with the public over the last few years, and I'm very proud of this report. Thank you.
Any others? Councillor Demoff?
Thank you very much for this report. And since I was the one that had pushed for the Citizens Forum, I'm disappointed that you didn't see it, but I do understand the process you went through to come to that conclusion. And I think there's probably some ways that we can engage people outside of. I'm very pleased that the website will be up and running in time for this whole process, because that's a way of engaging people in a way we haven't been able to the same extent before. Councillor Knoll and I just a few weeks ago went to a public engagement and consultation seminar, and that one of the things that they were talking about was people who prefer to be doing it in their home. They don't want to go out, and you do get a lot of input from that. So thank you for this, and I appreciate what you've done so far.
Any others? Any other members of council? Then, thank you for the information and for the materials that you've put together. I think we're ready for a recommendation from the committee. Councillor Elgar is moving the staff recommendation. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everybody. That takes care of the business on the agenda. As I said earlier, if there is further information required in order to deal with the items on October 12th, then please let us know so that we can prepare those materials or deal with the design of motions if you wish to start drafting things. Okay? We are adjourned.